Hey, welcome everyone to episode 5 of Skottie Talk with Tyler and Dustin. Tonight's a big episode, Tyler. This is the Ain't No Grave, and
Yep.
ain't's a word that we say in Kentucky quite a bit, but I can actually use it in a proper term here. So, Ain't No Grave, issue 5 review. And while we're at it, we're going to go ahead and hit up issues 1 through 4 to kind of give our summary and thoughts on the issues leading to the finale. And for anyone tuning in, and whenever I scheduled this for our group that we're part of, our Facebook group, the Skottie Young Appreciation Group, I didn't set the timer till 7:04 because I was late scheduling it. So there may be some people jumping in after the fact, seeing it pop up there. But hopefully, me and Tyler are going to try our best to keep it spoiler free until we get about halfway through the show. Whenever we dive into issue 5, and there's a lot to talk about with the first 4 issues, so it'll keep us busy for a while. But man, oh man, issue 5. This is where you're probably going to have to get the hook and
set up. All right, yeah, reel it in.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so, it was it's been building up to this moment, and we all knew it was a limited 5-issue series, and each one was dealing with a different stage, with grief and denial and all that stuff, and finally ending with number 5 here. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to talking about it, and it was definitely nice to be able to reread the whole series and just be able to get the whole picture in one sitting, and then also to just be able to just visually look at Jorge's work and just again mesmerizing what this team has been doing. So
yeah, and last week I'd kind of alluded to, you'd be able to tell by my attitude of what happened, but it's crazy during the reread, and almost focus on issues 1 through 4. My view of what I want to happen shifted several times during the reading of it, and different events and like the first issues that I really hadn't honed in on. As during the rereading, I thought, I don't know if I want a happy ending after all, because I've brought up the Joss Whedon endings that I hate, and R.I.P. Wash, but I didn't really know how I wanted this one to end until I read the issue 5, and it was a perfect ending. I won't say anything else though until we get there, but yeah, it was very well done. It dropped at 11 o'clock last night on Comixology, and me and Tyler were discussing it last night, and my bedtime is usually about 9:30, so running on fumes today, but it was well worth it. So.
Yeah, it was funny. You said you caught me with the images, and because I wasn't planning on reading it until the morning, but as soon as you sent it to me, I knew I just had to at least get that first read through, and like you said, it was well worth it, and then to be able to reread it again, and just really have all that stuff settle. So
thought-provoking movies or books or comics, anything like that, really gets the gears turning. And it was like after midnight. I think 12:30 is when I eventually went to sleep after checking my clock, because I was thinking about our show tonight, what I wanted to say about it, and I thought I'm gonna forget half this stuff, so I would pull up notes on my phone and try to add to it. But yeah, I'm not gonna say anything else because I'm gonna end up spoiling it. All right, here we go. We're gonna kick off just a little bit of the recap for how we got to where we are today for issue 5. Since this is a Skottie Talk group, we're going to start with the 5 issues that Skottie has contributed to this series. Issue 1 was a Skottie Shop exclusive, and it's a different variety than the other 4 that he did that are more of his baby variant covers. But it was a very cool issue, a very cool issue 1 when it came out. Just the design of it and the artwork of it was very popular among the group. Don't you agree, Tyler?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was, again, I think a lot of the people, whether you've been following his work for years and remember when his style was more like this before all the baby stuff, or, whether or not you're just seeing it for the first time, I think it's always that it's different. People, we're so used to seeing all the baby covers coming out and everything. And I know I felt the same way. I love seeing when he goes away from the baby style and does more, some of the stuff that I think he himself enjoys doing more. Not to say that, he doesn't enjoy doing baby stuff, but, whether or not he had the choice, I think it would be kind of something more like this. And it just fits the series so well. I mean, it's just so striking. And I love, Ryder blending into death. And it's just the tree behind him. The imagery, used was just fantastic. So I know I was really excited. I've got it currently up on my wall, the slab version of it, just because I just had to grab that version of it. I am a little bit remiss that we maybe could have gotten a baby variant too, because I'm such a set person where I'm like, to have 5 baby variant would have appeased that set collector in me. But yeah, I'm glad he kicked this off, and the popularity of it took off, and like you said, then led to the other variants being made.
Yeah, and the other variants being 1 in 25 ratio variants that were available at your local comic shops. The theme for all those kind of fits with the issue that you're dealing with, except when you get to issue 5, which is acceptance, and you can tell by the direction that Ryder is running on the cover that it does not look like she's ready to accept anything according to that cover. So, but yeah, these were all great. They were all great, and we'll talk about the issue 5 cover that just recently dropped this past Monday at the Skottie shop. The signed version is sold out as of this morning, but there is an unsigned version and a CGC 9.8 version that is still available. So we'll touch on that one here in a little bit. And our next slide just kind of tackles all the different variants that there were for issue 1. And you see on the left side of your screen over there, beside my and Tyler's head, you get all the different variations of the cover A, where the first printing, the second printing, the third printing, and then the gold variant there that was available at Nirvana Comics in Knoxville, Tennessee. And of course, we have the cover that we had talked about and Tyler had discussed, the Skottie shop, SkottieYoung.com exclusive cover there in the center that was done by Skottie himself. And then on the far right side, you have the cover on the far right done by Stephanie Hahn, and the cover directly below that done by Stephanie Hahn, and that was from Comic Corner. And the one on the bottom was limited to 50, and it was kind of their VIP group. And then the one that's got the colorful background there in the right section there was done by Morgan Beam, who is Jorge Corona's wife. And it was a Hall of Justice Comics exclusive. So all those on the right were very limited, I think to 250, 300. And then the one on the bottom was limited to 50. So there's still 3 or 4 of that bottom one available on eBay right now, CGC version. So you might want to grab those since they are so limited.
Thankfully, yeah, I can say that I've got each and every single one of these. I'm really
through all of them. This is issue 2, where we had our.
Might be having some technical difficulties there.
Yeah, it spun for a second, but we're both back. You're back now, thank goodness.
Cool.
The cover A and the second printing. Oh, go on, Todd.
I was going to say on that last slide, I was said that thankfully, I've pleased to say that I've got all those covers. Did the VIP and all that stuff, and I just recently received my slabbed variant of that bottom 50 limited variant. So definitely pleased with it. I mean, they're all great covers, and it's just such a cool series. So I'm glad this one wasn't as crazy as I Hate Fairyland or something, where we've got a whole bunch more, so it was a little bit easier to be able to grab each and every single one of these. So
yeah, for completeness sake, just having this many, and this is not a few. I mean, there's 8 different covers for it, but it's obtainable. The I Hate Fairyland had something crazy like 30 to 40 different covers for it, so it was a little bit more of a challenge to get all those in one go around. So
yeah, I'm still missing about, I think, like 6 or 7 of the #1 variants. So
man, the bad thing is too, the farther you get away from the publication date, the harder they are to get and to track down.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, so this is issue 2. We had the cover A and the second printing, and then we had the Skottie 1 in 25 ratio variant there for that one. And then as we get to issues 3, 4, and 5, we have Jorge Corona's cover A and Skottie's cover B, which was the 1 in 25 variant. Same thing for issue 4. Jorge Corona's cover A and Skottie's 1 in 25 variant. And finally, issue 5, which is, I like Skottie's covers. They're great. They're fun. This cover right here by Jorge is probably my favorite cover of the series. Just the flowing of Death's cape and everything. I love this cover. He did such a great job on this.
The detail, I mean, and I think it just to Death's design. I mean, his just design, or overall was just. It almost reminded me of something like Darksiders, or just something similar where it's like the big chunky vibes, like big flowing shapes, and the scrolls hanging off of his belt, and I just love his features, and like you said, the fact that it takes up the entirety of the front page is just so striking with the red color pop in there. So
oh yeah, it's both of these issues, they saved probably the best for last, in my opinion. But great artwork all the way through. No complaints at all. All right, let's discuss issues 1 through 4. This is the exciting part. We'll start off with issue 1, which dealt with the grief period of denial. And I'll hit up with my 2 points here. And we've got a couple of different points on every slide that we've got, along with some of the panels that from the series. But just the color for whenever it's first introduced, and Ryder meets the daughter there and the mother out in the West, and then it kind of transitions back to her flashback, and just the color shift, I thought was set a very strong tone of kind of, we're going to know what period we're in based upon the colors that we're seeing on the screen, which that even shifts later on in the series. But that was just to kind of show where she's at now versus where she's coming from. So we're thinking she's coming from this happy, go lucky place. But then once we reveal there's even a flashback before this family life that she's got later on in the series. And the fact that she did not kill the mother and daughter in this first issue, but I'd never felt safe. And even as I remember reading this issue for the first time, Tyler, and as she was walking away from the little girl, and the little girl had the doll, I was thinking, did she kill the mother? Did she kill her so she wouldn't be able to chase her down? Is she leaving this girl an orphan? And I'm assuming she didn't kill the mother, but I knew that she had it in her if she had to. So,
yeah, no, it's like you said. I mean, the tonal shift is super interesting, and we get that a lot throughout the series of who she was versus who she is now versus where she's going. And like you said, Jorge and I won't pronounce his name because again I will always butcher it, but their colorist always does such a great job with the color, and like you said, you can definitely tell the difference between the two. But also, the imagery that I like of that first and third panel there of this girl that she's found versus her daughter who she's reminded of, and like you said, she probably could have killed him without a second thought, but it's that nagging memory that she had of her daughter that's like, I get it, I'm a mom too, and I'm on a quest, to try and get back to my daughter. Yeah, I mean, it's just like you said, it's just it's just so striking, and they do that a lot with the art in this series. So,
well, yeah, and then this is the first panel that really set the tone for the parallels that'll be shown throughout all 5 issues, where you'll see like the panels 1 and 2 kind of mirror the panels below that, 3 and 4, and there's several shots whenever we get deeper into the story that this same effect is played into to kind of show you the differences where Ryder's at in her journey. So I thought this was really nice and a good way to kind of lay the groundwork for what's to come for that.
I agree. Yeah.
All right, and this is the beacon guy that's here. That's where the musical notes start playing. To me, the musical notes are associated with almost like a siren's call, the sweet call of death coming for you to coming forth to carry you home, to the old gospel hymn. But
I know I was gonna say, you mentioning that's where my mind went, was "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" In the scene where they're pulled down to the river and they're baptizing, and that one versus him sending them on to the next life. But no, like you said, yeah, her getting pulled in, you can tell she's like, what is that? And the curiosity and the sensation that she can't help but be pulled to it. So
yeah, and there was a part of me whenever I first read this, and even after she wakes up from it, I was thinking, is this going to be the big switch out here where she really died at this river, and this is where her family is going to find her body at the end of the series, and the whole thing that she's been living out has just been in her mind, which well, once again, spoiler free, that didn't happen, but that was the feeling that I had for it, just because it was so, as she was being pulled down with the other souls that were being taken to the water, that's what popped in my head.
Yeah, no, and playing into that, the denial aspect of it, of this being the first part, and her pulling away and being like, no, it's not my time yet. She hasn't even reached death yet. Her goal, who she has to, bargain with, and she's already having a bargain with another being, or spirit or person, if you will. And so
Yeah, and his quote that he lays out there, I thought was pretty strong right from the get go. The denial is natural, but acceptance is inevitable. Which that's really our issues 1 through 5. I mean, he's quoting the cycle to her, but with Ryder still being in phase 1 of her grief period of denial, she's not going down that easy, especially from someone that's not as powerful as what death is. So,
yeah,
that was a yeah.
no, it's a great There's a lot of good one-liners or phrases that I noted, and yeah, that one was a really great one to point out.
Well, there was a another panel that I wish I could have grabbed. I should have grabbed and added it too. Where Ryder's in the water. It's like a full page splash. I thought was one of the strong panels of the first issue, or strong pages of the first issue. But we had limited space, so I skipped that one. But the next image that we have here, of course, is her going out to the desert. This is before she parts ways with her horse. But she has the coin that has a City of Cyprus token on there. And just for a little background, I looked up a little bit about Cyprus, and I'm going to butcher this name here, but Kyperissos, I'll say it right. I'm not great at pronouncing words.
I think maybe Kyperissos, maybe.
Well,
I don't know.
The fun thing is I pulled it up on how to pronounce it.
Oh, did
I
you?
wrote it down phonetically, and I still butchered it. I think you said it closer with no practice at all than what I said, saying it 10 times by myself. So yeah, Kuiper.
It's always, because I don't know. I just think about people who pronounce words without having looked it up, and that's always my first thought too. I was like, I'm going to go to Google or a video or something, multiple to make sure that I'm saying this correctly. So you have the right idea. So I hadn't even done that.
No, it works sometimes, but about 50% of the time I still screw it up. But yeah, Kuiper, we're just going to call him Kuiper for now. The youth who accidentally killed his favorite stag and desiring to mourn forever transformed into a cypress tree. So the tree is thus associated with grief and lamentation, and often found near burial grounds or entrances to the underworld. So you can see where the name come from for the city of Cyprus. And I'm sure there's other areas that Skottie probably pulled from to get this name, but just reading that quick definition of Cyprus, it fits in well with what Ryder's about to, her journey that she's about to take here. And these were just a couple of the panels. I think you had even referenced this panel, Tyler, in our pre-show discussion, the one on the right.
Yep. Yeah, that one on the right is just, and Dustin and I kind of talked about this a little bit before him, but I really love the use of panels or almost the non-use of panels in this series. Whether it was something like this where, Jorge took all the panels and then used it to make, one larger image, or if it was where they were breaking the panels with, a hat on the outside or a gun that went into the next panel and stuff. It was just so visually impactful getting to pages like this. Honestly, I would love to see a poster of this. Like if we ever got a poster like we did, with the Me You Love in the Dark and I Hate Fairyland, like this would be one of my top images to put up there for a poster. So just absolutely gorgeous work.
It's funny that you mentioned that, Tyler, because I remember whenever I was flipping through the first issue and thinking which pages should I try to get whenever they go live at whoever's selling the art. This was the page that really struck me. And I thought I loved it. And I thought, even if I don't get this page, I'd love to see the art on this page just to see the detail before the coloring's even applied. And I still haven't seen the art. It was up for sale for a complete issue, and I haven't seen the art from it. But hopefully whoever buys it will eventually at least put it in calf or something so he can check it out. But
yeah, I would agree.
I see Dre's dropped in. He's on vacation, so it's nice for him to kind of kick his feet up from Disney and stop by and say, hey.
Exactly. I forgot he was down here right now. So
all right. So we get to the last images here, and just the larger than life creature or being that she sees before she passes into the city of Cyprus. And then where she ultimately says what her goal is to to kill death. And the shadow that Jorge uses in the second panel there on the right of just the size of the being versus Ryder is really cool. Versus all the city there that and the blacked out sun, which is it almost makes me think of like the upside down in Stranger Things, where this is like our Earth, but this is completely different. This is where the rules really don't apply to anybody anymore. And as we go on here, it's not like Earth at all. It's a completely different land. And,
well, it's cool because it's almost reminds me of Middle West in that sense, where there's so much that's reminds us of everything. It's like, oh, this is familiar and similar to everything that we've seen, and then you throw in a fox that can talk, or a walking robot, or a person that turns into a tornado, and I love their blending of that. The blending of the two worlds that that both can coexist at the same time, and one of them is unknown to the other. And I definitely there's a lot that we necessarily don't get answers to, like how does Ryder know how to be able to get to this place? Like, how did she get the coin? I think I might have missed the coin. I think the coin might have come from the water scene, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. She might have already had it, but I definitely would be interested to see more of like, that kind of stuff. Like if we were to get a side story, or, if this was turned into a TV show or movie, if you will, kind of a deal. So,
well, the artistic side of your brain that thinks about things like that, I'm all for face value. And I never thought where she had I just assumed it's accepted that she's always had this coin. She was born with this coin, and the city of Cyprus is common knowledge. But you're exactly right. That's nobody. I mean, they're not surprised when she takes off, but you're right. Everything that's in the flashbacks and the things that are happening don't have that fantasy element involved until you get to this crossover point where this image here on the right, the first things I thought of when I saw it was like, well, that looks like, Coco, the city of death in Coco, whenever he crosses over and sees all the buildings stacked on top of each other. But those are great points. I didn't even think about that. And there's something else I'll bring up later on that Tyler mentioned that totally sideswiped me, and I had to write it down to make sure we don't forget it. But it's a spoiler.
It's the world building, and I love that, and it's so interesting with comics and stuff where we only see the stuff that they let us see. So I'd be curious how much Jorge and Skottie sat down and discuss this city, discuss this creature that's standing in front of the door. Is it just like big hulking creature? Is it like, hey, it's big hulking creature, and extra sentences where he's been here for 800 years and he only lets in people with the coin, just like that kind of stuff. So I love the worlds that they design and come up with, and like you said, very reminiscent of other underworlds or worlds of the dead that we've seen, and I just love to explore it more. So
and I guess part of it goes to too with the story that you're telling in 5 issues. If the story of how she got the coin was pertinent to how the story ended, probably would have been put in there. But as you're reading this, that's the cool thing about these stories is something like that put in there that you don't even have to keep your mind contained to these 5 issues. You can kind of imagine where it came from. And the point you made about this guy being 800 years, as you're sitting here talking, Tyler, I'm like, oh, wow, he could be 800 years old. So I'm entertained by your theories on or your just questions about it. So yeah.
No, it's fun. Yeah. I mean, that's when I have the most fun is like when I'm invested not only in the story and the characters, but just like this world and, how does it work? How does it run? And that's that environment. It's being an environment artist for 3D for video games. That's where my mind goes. It's like, oh, how's this stuff built up? Who moved here? Kind of a deal. So,
yeah, well, you're looking big picture. I'm kind of micro. I'm looking at the Ryder. Yeah, watch your step, Ryder. You're gonna fall when you climb those mountains. Be careful. So, I'm learning a lot from you, Tyler. All right, so issue 2, we're already 25 minutes in, so I'll try to not yabber on too much, but issue 2 deals with the next stage of grief, which is anger. And one of the cool things about this, the second printing of it, is it kind of mirrors the wanted poster of Ryder in the bottom right panel there, the second issue there that we had there. So I thought that was cool. I liked how they made it have more of an aged look on the second printing. Even though it's the same image as the first printing, cover A of issue 2. The second printing has that aged look, the wear on the corners there, kind of like Ryder's wanted poster there in the city of
Yeah,
Cyprus.
I love that kind of stuff, the age look. And I like that they did that with issue 1 and 2. And again, kind of one of those funny things where I wish we maybe would have gotten a version of this for all 5 issues to be able to get that aged look across the whole board. But no, yeah, it's a nice comparison the two.
Well, Tinian, I'm gonna butcher the name of this book because it's been forever since I've read it, but I think it's like Nice House by the Lake. Hopefully, I've got that comic right. But it was one of Tinian's books that he was the writer of, and it had like I think 4 or 5 printings. The issue 1 did, and it was kind of an apocalyptic book as well. I never got to the end of it. I think I only read the first 5 issues, but each issue, each printing, each subsequent printing, the deterioration of the cover. It almost looked like it was catching on fire, and the deterioration got worse. She got to like 4th and 5th printing where it was just like spots on there of it. So that's not the same effect as what they did here with.
No, yeah, but that's
but it's similar.
That's what reminds me of the Wolverine Dies covers they did, where they did his hand getting more and more disintegrated and just gets down to the adamantium bones. That stuff is, like I said, I love that kind of interconnected. Partially for a collecting standpoint, but also just from a storytelling standpoint of being able to get a little bit more from the cover. Like you said, it's that old Western, it's old timey paper kind of a look to it. So
yeah. This panel there that does show her wanted poster leads to the first time where I kind of switched my mind as what I wanted to happen to Ryder. And as we can see in that second, or that's the first image over there on the left. And I've got the mouse, and I'm like circling it with the mouse, but I'm sure nobody can see that.
It doesn't come up, yeah.
But it helps me. It makes me feel good. But the fact that the marshal is begging for this man's life, and he's got a family, and I believe he said he even references having an 8-year-old, which is Ryder's daughter is Joey looks to be around that same age length, and he's begging for his life. The marshal's begging for his life, and Ryder doesn't think twice about shooting the guy and ending his life and making his child an orphan. And it's just to kind of put her in the same position she's in now, where she's trying to protect her family and trying to keep from dying. This was probably the first, especially during the reread of this, that I read this one, that I thought, I was wanting a happy ending for Ryder until I got to that panel there, and I thought, yeah, maybe she doesn't deserve a happy ending. Maybe she's got this coming for her from a long time. But did you, whenever you first read this panel and saw that she was as kind of no mercy given at all, what was your kind of reaction to Ryder at that point?
Again, and we kind of talked about it a little bit before the show started, but I really love gray characters. For like gray areas for characters, I constantly bring up Breaking Bad and Walter White, and that without giving anything away from the show, he goes from somebody who starts out as a simple chemist teacher and then goes, into the drug world and stuff. So you can kind of imagine how things kind of progress and how much that can change a person. And the world, that's my viewpoint with the world too. It's not just black and white; it's gray. There's just so many variables that mix and match together. And what I like about what they did with this scene was her conversation with the marshal that she has at gunpoint, that, she said, you've got a kid, and what would you do for them? And he's like, anything. And she's like, exactly. Like, I would do anything for my kid. And it's like, what am I supposed to do? Like, surrender, like take me in cuffs and I'll never get to see my kid again and stuff. Granted, I don't agree with her killing. I think, she could have wounded him and then fled. She didn't have to kill. So like you said, there is that kind of sense of, well, yes, you don't, you can't go with them, but do you really have to kill them? Is this the final answer? There's no other way out of this besides you shooting this man who has a kid, himself, and is just trying to get back to them. So like you said, I never was like, I was still rooting for her, but it's like you said, it's still that thing where it's like, oh, man, like it's like, all right, you're not giving me much to work with, you're kind of giving me painting a worse image for yourself. So
yeah, and to go from this scene or this flashback scene of the train robbery to where she's currently at in Cyprus, and the guy that's like trying to stop her, and I don't know if you notice on his jacket, he had like 100 different different like stars, like Marshall stars and different medals
Yeah.
and stuff on there. And she doesn't hesitate to shoot him at all whenever he stands in her way of getting back to. So really, she never really changed at all. She's willing to blow through this guy just to, and we see the bullets flying in that next panel there as she's like trying to escape the mob there in Cyprus that's trying to stop her. And one of the things as she's shedding blood and as she's showing blood, it's kind of, I thought that was, to me, I told you before the show, I'm not big into symbols because I usually go over my head. But the fact that blood's coming internally from her, whatever it is that she's got, that's causing her to have that. I guess tuberculosis. I don't know. I'm not good at guessing medical conditions or whatnot. But yeah, as the blood's coming up, it's like her body's betraying her. She has shed so much blood of others, including the people in this train robbery, the people in the town, or the beings in the town of Cyprus, that she has no hesitation at all to plow down in order to get to her next point. But the one thing, when she gets to the boy that gives her help, and we see that quote there, that was another quote that I pulled: "Death is certain, he never wavers." And we kind of see where she's headed. She's going up against something that she thinks she can sway. And these people, and I think you may have even mentioned in the pre-show, this is probably not the first time someone has came through this town came through the city trying to face death. So they don't sound like the I hoped for.
Yeah, and what's funny is that boy says that, he says, "You think you're the first, to attempt this?" To like,
yes,
you're not, like, you're not the first person that thought of this. So, it makes sense there would be many others who would have this, the same deal. And again, that also gets hit upon later, which we'll discuss. But like you said, just the thought that she's just so stubborn. And again, it's, still the denial and anger and, I'm going to do this, because she's so used to being able to just pull a trigger and getting what she wants, kind of a deal. And interestingly enough, too, kind of going back to, the history that we don't get to see, I'd be curious, her upbringing. Was she raised on the streets? Was like,
oh yeah,
eating and all that kind of stuff the only way she could survive, and that's all she's ever known until she met her husband, which it kind of seems like she's hinted at. He saved her in a way, but when it just gets to that point where it's just all is bloodshed and violence and that kind of stuff. So but like you said, it's catching up to you. It always catches up. That's always the thing, is no matter how good your intentions are currently, your past will always kind of catch up to you, especially if you've done such terrible things like she has. So
yeah, and the parallel that you've used several times that I think is brilliant, the Breaking Bad parallel, where you get to the point where Walter White has become Heisenberg, and he's questioning, is he doing this now because he has to, like he did in season 1, or is he doing this because he wants to? And as we talk about Ryder's history, and you see the train robbery here, there are certain scenes that we'll get to later on that she's doing it, I think, because she has to. But how much of that was she forced into, and how much does she actually enjoy this part of her life, this side of her that she gets to go out and play the villain?
And same with this trip, her husband talked about it too, where, is like, do you need to go do this, rather than leaving, you could stay with this for a year, whatever time you have left, and not leave your daughter. But instead it's like you have to go do this. And it's that calling, it's just innately built into her that, she feels she has to go do this and has to prove herself, or, whatever else her motivations and stuff are. So no, it's sad, and just part of the journey. So
well, the fact that she has gotten as far as she has in life by doing all these heinous acts that she's done, and nothing's ever caught up for her. I mean, she's got a loving family, a loving husband, a great little daughter, and now she's finally got to the point where it's not the acts around her that's got her; it's her own body that's starting to say, we're going to bring you down one way or the other. And just her saying, no, I've gotten out of everything I've ever got into. This is no exception. So.
Yeah. Well, so I don't remember. Is the next slide? It's still continuing issue 2, or okay? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. She gets her beast in this slide, which I had to. Before, I'll have to give Tyler all the credit for this one, but before approximately noon today, all the images all the issues here just had words on them, word salad that I've thrown up there. But Tyler said, it'd be cool if we put panels from the issue up there. And I thought, oh, that's a great idea. So 100% kudos to Tyler for that one. But this image, once I started pulling them, I thought I had to include this one. This is such a cool beast up there that's leading her to the boat, her blind majesty that you see there on the right.
Yeah, same with, the horse. I love the way Jorge did both this animal, this ram, and the horse, where, it's kind of featureless. It's just all black, just see their eyes. Again, I bring it up a lot because it's just one of my favorite series, but, it reminds me so much of Darksiders because their horses, are part of the riders. It's the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And again, just this, this creature. And, it kind of goes back to scary movies as well. The best monsters are the ones you don't ever fully see because your imagination fills in the voids and the gaps. So, it's, excuse me, it's similar with the goat here, the ram, and the horse, where it's kind of featureless, but like there's just enough there that you can tell how much of a beast it is. Now I didn't get to put it in here. I didn't have. I ran out of time before being able to add it, but I think probably my favorite line from the whole series, and it's not necessarily integral to the story or emotional in any way, but where Ryder's riding this goat and they're trying to get out of the city, and she goes, "We got to go. Water ain't the worst thing to get your clothes wet." And I read that, I was just like, man, that's just such a good line. Like, it's like, because there's always been kind of plays on that of like, you'll bleed, or make you bleed or something like that. And I just read that and I was like, that's such a great way to, again, just like, because she's trying to get to the boat, get into the water, and just be able to relate and fit it into the story in such a specific way. So
now that was another one that we talked about, all the great lines that were popped up here that weren't forced and weren't cheesy. And that's just another great example of Skottie's writing ability that's really shined in this series that has been very impressive. And I have the reviews posted for issue 5 later on, but if you look at kind of the reviews for issues 1 through 4, this has been a very well-received book and very complimentary of Skottie's writing and Jorge's art that's involved with it. So of the whole team that's involved with this, Nate and John as well. So very, very, very great quote there. I'm glad you pulled that one up because I that one had slipped my mind. But
yeah, it's just it was so good. And before we move on quick, I'll just say the other thing too is, again, we talked about the breaking of the panels. Again, I just love the smog coming from the ship, just the black, just completely filling the edges. Again, it just really pushes that like, this is dirty and vile, and I just love it. It's just so visually striking. So.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out because on both panels there, the beast and her cave and the small. So that's it's like this. It even adds more to that otherworldly feel to it that it's coming through. It's breaking the barrier between the comic and the reader. So that's a great point. And the only thing I was going to add to this, the fact that she gets shot as she gets the river, and then I was thinking, is this going to be what kills her? Is this going to be what brings her down prior on? I didn't have high hopes for Ryder, I guess, at this point in the thing because she had so much stuff that she was going up against. But, one thing that me and my wife always joke about in TV shows, sometimes one bullet in a gut puts somebody down within 2 seconds. And other times you get the action hero that gets shot 15 times and he's fine. Like he just keeps going on. And
I was going to say, it depends on whether or not you're wearing a red shirt. So
that's right. Great point. All right. So we get to issue 3 and this is the bargaining issue. And right from the very beginning where she gets cleaned up to look more respectable. And as we see later on in this issue, that is a point of contention between her and her husband, Darius. But one of the things as we're walking through this boat here and she's kind of getting the tour and seeing the different sections of it, and even the things that are supposed to be kind of the pleasure central of the boat, it's nightmare fuel. There's a lot of corrupted, and that's what I put in there: corrupted pleasures and corrupted punishments. And it's a place for opportunity, hence the bargaining. But it's also a place where you don't want to get stuck on this boat. I don't think it looks pretty scary.
No, for sure. I mean, it's definitely Hansel and Gretel, finding the the candy house, or not Hansel and Gretel. I guess that's the newer version they did. But anyways, like you said, finding what you think to be desirable and good, and then realizing underneath it all that's a lot worse than you could have ever possibly imagined. And I really like it too, because again, there's always, it's kind of like, the temptation side of things, which are normally in these kinds of stories. But I like it because, Ryder doesn't blink at all, which is just like, cool, whatever. Like, I'm just here to, get my coin and get out. So, this stuff for me, I'm not, here for it. And, I'm going to pay no heed. So
what in the world has she seen in her life that's made this stuff normal? Because one of the good things that Jorge did on some of the like the zoom in images of the ladies that are occupying the boat, and then as he zooms in on them, you can see that they're kind of disfigured, kind of nothing is really pretty. Yeah, even though it's got a lot of pretty colors. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So but you're exactly right. She doesn't blink. She just keeps on going. She knows what she's there for, and she's ready to get it over with pretty quickly.
And kind of going back to just the respectable, that was something I hadn't brought up in the earlier panels, but I really liked when we'd go to the flashbacks, we'd either get a visual, like there's moments where she's wearing a dress and she's visually, this way in the flashback, and then the next panel is almost exactly the same, but it's current time. She's, her normal self, her old self. And same with this, the panels before this, it's a flashback and she's talking to her husband, and there's an issue with her daughter swimming in her dress in the water, and she dresses up to go into town to try and get their house back. And I love that transition, where it goes from, dress and all, and then it goes, or being all, and then it goes respectable, and she's back, at the present. And I just love that transition. Again, this one just for some reason felt so more cinematic to me, the comic and the way that it was written and set up. And like I said, I almost felt like I was just watching a reel going, and like I could just see the flashbacks happening in my head. So
there's so many TV shows and movies now that have used kind of that plot device of the flashbacks to flesh out the current story that's going on. And sometimes it's a hit and sometimes there's misses on it. Lost is one of the first shows that I really enjoyed that I remember using it. I'm sure there's shows that use it before, but it kind of, you didn't take the president at face value anymore because you had evidence of people that maybe have did wrong in the past or were just a completely different person before they came to the island. And one of the things that Skottie used for this story here, the flashbacks, to really kind of show you Ryder is who she is. Like the parallels that you're mentioning, it's still Ryder. And you had mentioned a great part later on that we'll touch on a little bit where she cuts her hair, and Darius even comments about her like saying, "I recognize you now," with the short hair and the content on her face that she's ready to go out.
Yeah.
I meant to mention this to you earlier, but the thing that I thought of with Robert Pattinson when he was playing Batman was, like Bruce Wayne is the disguise, Batman is is who he is.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly how Ryder is in this situation. She's never been respectable, but she can blend in well enough to pass off for short periods of time. But she's always going to have to kind of return back to this stage of being herself.
Yeah, and it's one of those, tough things where, you don't want to see it. You don't want to see her fighting for it or fighting with it, against it. And, it's just something she struggles with, almost like an addiction. Being that person, that's who I know, that's who I am. And just like you said, it's, her being in a dress or something is not normal and doesn't feel normal to her. So.
Yeah, and I think respectable too. I use that in quotation marks because it's not just an appearance for her. It's actually a type of lifestyle that Darius wants her to live and wants her to fit in this box. But yeah, she's the type of person that is willing to do anything at any time if it kind of furthers her agenda. And this is just another example of, she's going right into this next stage that we're about to deal with Madam Gates here, who honestly, I use this line around my wife all the time just to drive her crazy, but the risk it for the biscuit. I love that line. And whenever I saw it in there, it just made me giggle. Yes, I giggle, but I just love, I love the stakes for this game, or this game of poker were pretty high. and she didn't blink, at all before she's like, deal me in. I need to get this. I need to get this taken care of. And lo and behold, she cheats. She cheats at this game, just as she does in the flashback that we saw, that I guess we're about to discuss. I don't think we've talked about that yet. But in the flashback of this issue here is where her land, Darius is wanting her to get dressed up so they can go to the bank to try to get the money for the land. Yep. Instead of doing that, she goes to a poker game and bets a lot of money, cheats, wins, and ends up buying their farm, getting their land. So
yeah, it actually happens. Looking at it, it happens right before that flashback happens. Right before this image on where she's at the table. So yeah, I mean, like foreshadowing, leading up to it, and it reminds me of Lando Calrissian or Han, playing Sabacc in Star Wars or something, where it's like that confidence, but the confidence comes from the fact that she knows she can win by cheating. But I also really like the fact that, again, she gets away with it because she's like, you told me that I had to win by any means necessary, but you didn't tell me what kind of means, that I had to play by, what the rules were. So you never said I couldn't cheat. So, and then she's like, I like how she laughs, and she's like, you know what? I like that. You're right. That's on me. So, here's your coin. But then, the added fact, where she's like, well, let's see her guest out the way she deserves to be seen out. And they beat her up and toss her off the boat. So again, that, you still got in the end what was coming to you kind of a deal. So.
Yeah, and I think this next little paragraph here is what I texted you at one point in time as we were doing kind of our message you as we were doing kind of our recap here. But the fact that she's never really accepted anything, I mean, not even any of the consequences that come from her actions, and even the fact that she had this nice traditional family that she had there, and she couldn't even accept her role, as just as a loving wife, as a mother, without being able to slide back into her villain, her outlaw days. And she did it so easily that you'd think that she was probably more content, cutting her hair or going to play that poker game where she's going to cheat for the land than she is sitting there and playing the role of just your typical wife. She needs this adventure. She almost needs this thrill in order to get something. But it takes, going back to the beginning, I think it takes the fact of her getting sick and about to lose everything until she realizes how special that moment with her husband and daughter were at that point in time.
For sure. I'll just say, I want to say you pointed it out, but I love the way they designed Ryder's hair, especially with this panel here. Like, it's just so big and voluminous. And again, like, wouldn't happen in reality, but like, it just looks so cool and striking. So
yeah, the amount of hairspray to get that to stay like that would probably be incredible.
A few bottles at least, for sure.
Oh yeah, but it'd be worth it. This is seeing her hair is one of the things. It's funny you mentioned that because as I was reading this, I was like, if they ever were to produce a TV show or a movie based upon this, how in the world would they get her hair to stay like that all the time? And especially in the
really big wig, they just have to spray and have perfectly ready. So
yeah, I guess there's that flock of seagulls hair type that would be going on. But yeah, it's great. I really enjoyed her hair, especially in that scene there. But as you said here, she won. But the Madam's crew does not take kindly to cheaters. Apparently, even though they gave her the marker that she won from the poker match, she still got beat down pretty bad. And as we were saying, as this issue goes on here, we start to see really the deterioration between Ryder and Darius. As she's leaving to go on this journey back in issue 1, we see that Darius is begging her not to go, and we're thinking that maybe this is. We don't really know at that point in time what stage their relationship's in. Like, have they had their hardships yet? Are they going through a rough patch? But we can see that Darius almost looks like he's a man of peace. He's a more tender-hearted guy, and Ryder is not. Ryder is a lady of action and someone that wants to get results more at any means possible. So, I think that's why I said solve issues by any means necessary. So, but it just the flashbacks are really painting a picture of her home life with Darius more so than anything.
No, 100%. Like you said, it's we get the flashbacks to a different time, but you still see the Ryder in both of them. And there's no getting around it, no hiding, and especially when it comes to the sickness, and even regardless, even if she wasn't sick, how she took care of the house and the gambling and the cheating, like you said, is just she's still going to do things her way and the way that she thinks they need to be done. And that's a point in contention for her and Darius, because he doesn't want their daughter to go through that, way of growing up and thinking that that's, how things are. So.
Yeah, and the age expectancy for outlaws isn't very high either. So, I mean, you don't want your daughter to go through it. So. All right, man. We're 50 minutes in, so we're making decent enough time. I think these last few issue 4, the silent issue, which would probably have a lot to speak on here. And I think it's, as I was doing the reread today, I was really Monday, I was really thinking about the depression stage of life and people I've known that's went through depression and just really the people that start to withdraw and avoid any kind of contact with others. And two of the other things that kind of go, it's just rumination of thinking about all the sorrows and all the people that hate you and all the problems that you've caused, and then the self-medicating with alcohol. And as we can see in this panel here on the right and the panels that kind of lead from it, Ryder is kind of hitting all those stages together where she's thinking back of her home life. And this is one of the things that I talked to you about prior to the show, where I believe all the flashbacks that we've seen up to this point have been 100% flashbacks taking place here. But this flashback, I think it's a false flashback, where I think you use the term they're toying with her and making her relive this moment here. And the chipped glass is I think kind of the key to let us know that this is all still happening in her mind in the city of Cyprus and not actually taking place in a real flashback.
Yeah, and her shock too, she's looking around, she's bewildered and shocked to find herself, back home. But then again, it quickly returns back to disgust as she, coughs up blood. And, we discussed that maybe this is her first time, realizing that she was sick back when, she first coughed up blood or something. So, it's interesting, like you said, especially without the words, you're just more so relying on the imagery and to answer those questions for you. So.
No, but you brought up a good point too, in one of the panels that we don't have on here, that it's more that parallel of left and right to see what's going on versus what's going on. But in both images, you see the outline of the being that appears to be her daughter, Joey, in the doorway. And that kind of brings them back together and brings us back to the present where she's currently at.
Yeah.
And that leads us to the guitar playing man, which I had mentioned that the musical notes, the last time we saw them was in issue 1, when the beacon had kind of summoning the souls. So it makes me almost think that the death, the passing period is the music that's involved with it. And that kind of leads her to this point. And the other thing that as I was doing the reread from and thinking of depression and how you feel like the world's kind of collapsing in on you, and you have that, as I put there, claustrophobic nature. And it just, as it gets further and further, as she meets the man playing the guitar, and eventually leads to her being in the coffin to pass forward to that next phase. Just she kind of hits the whole gambit of depression phases here in this one issue before she finally breaks through and has her rebirth at the end of it.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, I mean, again, just this whole, like you said, this whole issue is just so striking. And again, I'll put the casket one again. That could also be a big contender for a poster for this series. Just because, the visualization of the tree and the roots, and then her, being in the casket itself. And again, it's so interesting. Like I kind of brought up earlier, this music man, who is he? Where does he come from? Is he tied to the earlier issue, like you said, with the river and stuff? Definitely a different song playing. I'm thinking something Tom Waits. Like that's where my mind goes with something like this, something very, grungy and dark. But yeah, it's just so interesting. Like you said, it's just being swallowed up into the ground. And there's like you said, we didn't get the panels, but there's literally the scene where, they're screaming and they're playing music, and all of a sudden the rocks start tumbling and like rocks start filling up the panel, and then like it just closes and it's just completely dark. And it cuts back to, that's where we get the flashback again to the hair, her cutting the hair, and where she left things off with Darius. And like you said, everything just coming to a head, like her, realizing where she was and then where she is now. And I think again, just kind of hitting that point where it's like, well, I can't stop now. Like I've made it this far. I've got to burst through, and make my way to death and reach that final destination, if you will. So.
Yeah, and as she bursts through and like, all right, I'm getting past this phase. It's time for my next phase. It's funny that her hat's waiting there for her, and she's back into her costume or her outfit. I say costume,
Yeah.
but outfit from the beginning. And just the ending, the only words that are mentioned in the whole book, the "Hello, Rider," which is really all right. This is where issues 1 through 4 have been leading us, and the journey has definitely taken a toll. She's looks pretty beat up at this point. And these were the questions that I typed in before I read the final issue. In case I don't even think I mentioned that to you, Tyler, but will Ryder beat death or fail like all the people that came before her? Will she accept her fate and appreciate the time she has left with her family, or will she ultimately pay for her sins? So that was where my mind was leading into issue 5.
No, it's like you said, I love, and going back to her outfit and stuff again. I would love to see somebody pull off a cosplay for this. There's been a few fantastic Gerts. I would love to see somebody dressed as Ryder, or even Death. Just see a figurine or something of Death. It's just such great designs. Funny enough, we don't have the panel here, but again, kind of like where my mind wanders off to and stuff. What I thought was interesting was right before she reaches Death, she has her card, the token that she got from the boat. And she once again runs into the man who first opened up the portal to the world of the dead, as we saw with the city and stuff. So it's that same person.
Yeah, the 800-year-old guy.
Yeah, the 800-year-old guy. And what's interesting, though, is when she puts the card in, he smacks the ground, but then it shows his face, and you can see, like, what's a skull. And then there's a dust storm, and then all of a sudden, Death's there. And so I'm thinking that was just Death the whole time. Like, Death has always been there with her, kind of like a goodness Christmas, the Scrooge, and how Death, the companionship. That's almost kind of how I took it. So that's kind of where my mom was like, wait a minute, like we've seen this guy, like, and now maybe he's Death, but no, I mean they're great questions. I guess I didn't have any questions. I always kind of figured that things weren't going to work out, but it would still be kind of bittersweet. At least that's what I was thinking, or where I thought it was maybe going to go. I think it would have been interesting, and definitely would have, I think, maybe surprised me if she, if we were to go forward, if we were to maybe see her actually defeat Death. So I guess it hadn't crossed my mind that like that would maybe be an option if we do get to see that. But like I said, that's at least where I was, building up to it. I was like, like people have said, how do you defeat Death? Like, how do you take on, an immortal being of sorts when you're just, a human? But I was definitely interested to see, with issue 5 where it goes. So.
Yeah, well, that was a great point about the being that we're talking about, and the little part of the poem popped up. I could not stop for Death, so he kindly stopped for me. Yeah, he was right there. Yeah, she thought that was part of her journey, but it's really just stand still, and he was coming for her anyway. So, yeah, those are great points. And one of the things that you mentioned there about Death and what happens if you ultimately defeat Death. And I remember watching a TV show. We watched it. It was one of those school specials that we watched like in 4th or 5th grade. And I guess it was based on some story, but the gentleman captures Death in a bag, and pretty much nobody dies from that point in time. And you got a bunch of decrepit, people walking around until he gets to the point where he lets it go and everybody just falls over. I mean, there's no good result from killing Death. It's not going to end well for anybody. But I guess defeating Death and killing Death are two different things. Even though she's sought to kill Death, but how also can you defeat Death or outsmart Death? So there's a lot of things going on. What's she going to do to ultimately get back to Darius and Joey? Because I thought Skottie's not going to write a story where he takes a mother away from her husband and daughter, or will he? So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, chart time. This was, if you've listened to our first 4 episodes, especially the last one, you know that I was really wanting Ryder to do well. And then as I did my reread, I kind of noticed after issue 1, I was Team Ryder all the way. Death, no, I didn't want him to win at all. Then after she killed the Marshall's guy in issue 2, I was like, well, Ryder's kind of coming down a few notches. And then after issue 3, seeing the bargaining and what she's going through to get back and winning the land for her family, even though she did it by an ill-begotten ways, it was still like, all right, I'm back on Team Ryder. And then at the end of issue 4 here, I'm kind of a toss up now. I went into reading issue 5 thinking whatever happens is going to happen, and that leads us to the next part, what we like to refer to for the first time ever as the spoiler zone. So if you have not read issue 5, please do not watch beyond this until come back and watch it later, so you can kind of see what our insight is. But if you have not read issue 5, you have 5 seconds, 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2, 1. All right. Well, before we get into issue 5, which is the acceptance issue, these were the reviews that were pulled from Comic Book Roundup, and the first 2 that came in were very high, and then there, at the end of the day, there was 5, and it's at a 9.3, which I believe is the best reviewed issue of the book. And all the reviews were. I'd wait until I read issue 5 before I read the reviews because I didn't want to be spoiled at all. And the reviews spoke very highly of not only Jorge's art but Skottie's writing, and just this story. And everybody that reviewed it was saying they couldn't recommend the story enough. And hopefully it takes on kind of a life of its own, and more people do come to read this story, because as a 5-issue arc, it's a wonderful story. It's really well written. And one of the reviews, and I meant to mention this to you earlier, Tyler, and one of the reviews said the only thing they wish it could have happened was it could have been stretched into a 2-arc miniseries, like 10 issues instead of 5. But then as I read that, I was thinking, I'd love to get more of Jorge's art and more of Skottie's writing, but it kind of screws up the 5 stages of grief and the structure that Skottie laid out for it. So I was like, no, even though I'd love to get more, 5 is plenty for this one.
That's always my thing. Yeah. I really think, and the only series of his original idea is I Hate Fairyland that he's continued on and hasn't been a limited series. But, Middle West would be like the second longest, but The Me Love in the Dark, was a short series. This one was a short series. Twig was a short series. So, I think it's honestly a smart way to do it, especially because they jump from genre to genre, and, it's, him testing out the waters maybe more so, or, getting to play within those worlds he hasn't been able to have a chance to dip his toes into yet. And, like I said, they always, like you said, I absolutely would love, to see more art and get more of this world and stuff. And, with Twig, we're getting more of that series here at some point. The Me Love in the Dark, he hasn't said anything. I think that's probably going to be left alone for now, but who knows? Maybe we could eventually get more of at least this world again, the 800-year-old guy, just stuff like that. But, they definitely strike that really fine balance of just enough to where, it just feels like such a great, bite. And I like it because, I was reading something where it was either a video game or movie or a TV show or something, but, as somebody was saying, you can either go to an all-you-can-eat buffet and keep eating until you're just completely full, or you can eat a really delicious bite-size piece. It actually was I think the creator of the new Astrobot game from PlayStation, because they made specifically just like a 10-15 hour short game, and that was his thing. You can do the all-you-can-eat buffet, a 50-60 hour game, or you can do a really tightly, really polished 10 to 15 hour adventure. And that's how I always feel about his series versus 700 issues of Marvel or, something like that, where, and obviously those things have sections, they're broken up into storylines and different artists and writers and stuff. But, and then I always go back to the Batman, you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And that's always a toss up. And that's what I love about Image and these, owner-owned comics, where they get to make these decisions rather than we're just doing it for the money, or, we can do it because we can. It's like, no, let's do this 5 series. Like you said, let's focus it on the 5 stages of grief. So,
yeah. And after seeing Beetlejuice 2 this weekend, just because you can do a sequel doesn't mean you need to do a sequel. And that's all I'll say about that. That was not my favorite movie of the year so far.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I digress. We'll get into issue 5, acceptance. And as we see the face-off between Death and one that you pointed this out, and I even mentioned to you that one of the reviews had pointed it out too, just Death's robes flowing from the panel and just kind of floating there, breaking the panels. It's a really cool effect. And the first thing that hit me whenever I was reading this last night were were just the sea of people that have died because of consequences or because of actions that Ryder has did. And it was just a very haunting image, especially when you see the children there. That she's not just killing people, who are bad. A lot of times we have the hero that he kills a lot of people, Punisher, but they're bad guys. They deserve, we can kind of justify it. The people that she's killed in that lineup there, unless we've got some 8-year-old, bank robbers or something like that, these were a lot of innocents that have died at the hands of Ryder through just her years as an outlaw.
Well, I will say, I don't think all of them are direct deaths. I would think the children wouldn't be. I could be wrong, but I kind of, go to her response of, I didn't do all this, they're not all on me. And, Death explaining to her, every bullet from her gun,
Yeah, the doctor saying that she killed a town's doctor.
And, exactly. Or, killed a parent, which, then left the child parentless, and then the child died because of that. So it's
exactly.
Yeah, it's that ripple effect. Yeah.
The next line there, all evil actions have consequences, no matter how small the acts may be. That's exactly kind of what I was getting at. Because seeing the children that she had, because when she was killing these people, and you think of a town doctor, that's not someone that's out doing evil acts. That's someone that I would like to refer to as just collateral damage. And she killed him with just because she had to. She was in the moment to get to step A to B. She killed the town doctor, which ultimately, like you said, either by killing a parent or killing a doctor, all these deaths are on her hands. And the fact that she never even thought about, well, what effects is this going to have other than benefiting me? It made me kind of look at Ryder a lot differently, and not just Ryder. I mean, think about all the things that we do in life. Whether we cut someone off to get to work a little bit faster, we don't consider other people's thoughts whenever we're shopping at a grocery store. We're just rude and not being friendly at all. We don't realize that sometimes our little actions that we do, no matter how small they may be, no matter how rude they may be, may ruin somebody's day and ultimately ruin their life at some point in time. So, granted, Ryder's actions were a lot worse than probably what cutting someone off at a interstate or something. But
for sure, yeah.
But still, it just goes to show you, like you said, the ripple effect of it, the butterfly effect of this. There's consequences. Someone's going to pay for what you're doing, no matter if you live to see it or if you're even there when it happens.
Exactly. Yeah. No, and like you said, I mean, it's just so striking. And again, the color difference of, the lighter ghost versus this really red saturated, background with the eclipse fulling effect and, kind of almost like the blood, that's been spilt as well. So.
Oh yeah. Yes. That's a great point. This was a killer image here. This was so good. I'm assuming it's a double page spread. I read it on digital, but it was really good. And this is kind of like as you were getting into her questioning about all these people she killed, and Death letting her know that through her acts that has maybe not directly led to their deaths, but has indirectly led to their deaths.
Yeah.
And just the images of all the carnage surrounding her. It's just, this is a great double page splash.
And then like the bottom corner there too, like seeing the widow and the kids, again, that's that your direct actions and then your indirect actions, it's still all one thing, it's still a bullet that, came from your gun. So
exactly. So as I'm reading this as well, this journey has not, I wrote this journey has taken time, and we now know, spoiler, this was a one-way trip. There was no going back for Ryder after this happens, but I guess I jumped the gun a little bit there, but I guess we can talk about that now. We know this duel with Death is going to lead to inevitably Ryder, death is inevitable, as we said earlier. This isn't a match that Ryder can win.
And it's an interesting thing. 'Cause, it's a spoiler, but at the same time, I think for most people wouldn't be surprised or shocked that, to find out that she unfortunately couldn't beat him. But also, because there's, a lot of foreshadowing, like you said, the boy earlier, like, well, you're not the first one to try this. others have tried this,
Yeah.
and it doesn't sound like, they were successful. Like you said, your favorite line of, uh, good is it? It's acceptance is inevitable. I can't remember the
Yeah.
first, but that line, and so, she might, think that she's got everything she needs and she's, defeated every other step, which, is still an accomplishment all on its own, which even Death, comments on later. But yeah, I mean, like you said, it's, this is the end of the road, and Death, without Death, it's, and like you said, whether or not, it's killing or defeating, whatever have you. But yeah, so.
It's amazing because whenever I first started reading issue one, I assumed I was reading a story, especially you get to the end of the issue one where she's like, I'm going to kill Death. You think you're reading a story where it's Ryder is going up against Death, and it's going to be this great duel, just a legendary duel. And then as you get to these panels here and you realize the story was never about her defeating Death. It was about her accepting Death, her getting to the point where she accepts it. And Death, where the plot here is, if you hit Death, you can go back, you get more time. If you miss him, you see an image of what's going to happen, what you're missing. You see an image of what you're missing. And Death isn't dodging bullets or anything like that. He's never really scared of Ryder. He's kind of looking at her straight on, and every time she misses, and the image on the right there of her daughter finding love and eventually, falling in love. To me, I like to see that just so we know that her family is going to be okay. Like her death isn't going to be the point that ruins her family, but it's also for Ryder to see that. It's I'm sure I put a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing to let her know it's all going to be okay. But it's also, this is something I will never have. I won't be there for these moments, which is a lot of people that face death is something that you have to go through. You have to make those realizations, and death is coming for everybody. It's inevitable. We all know that we're on this earth. We're going to die. Man, this episode got really bleak really quickly, but at some point in time, we know that the world is going to go on without us. We're not the reason the world goes on. We're not the focal point of this universe, as Wolverine is in Deadpool Wolverine 3. But life will continue. Things will be okay. And even though Ryder has had this destination, this journey, this build up in her mind that she can somehow beat death, he's a scary figure, intimidating figure, but he's a comforting figure. And I believe that's something along the lines that you had messaged me whenever we were first discussing this.
Yeah, and I don't know if we have the image of the panel, but yeah, I think it goes past it, but I really like, where Ryder, and kind of going back to your, seeing the images, I really like the Death's, terms are that she can use the rest of the shots in her guns, and for every hit is time that she gets, and every miss is a glimpse of the future that she won't be able to partake of. And my interpretation, or what we saw is that, because we talked about it beforehand, but that he was getting hit, but it wasn't really him getting hit. It was all misses. None were actual direct hits. So she was only ever able to see the glimpses. And I love at the end when she runs out of bullets. It's like, no, that can't be all of them. And Death, takes her guns, but then embraces her and hugs her. And Ryder, just that final acceptance, of that's it. I'm done. I don't get to see them anymore. But Death being, because again, it's so easy for a human to be like, well, I would be annoyed if I was Death. And it's like, well, generally in these situations, these otherworldly beings who have existed forever and will continue to exist don't perceive emotions and time and stuff as humans do. So, for him to be still comforting because, he's seen death day in and day out, every day, multiple deaths. And, he's had this happen before where somebody's, confronted him angry that, they don't get more time. And I just love the fact that he embraced her. And like you said, it was more so a comforting, that's kind of how death is portrayed in a lot of things. And, like you said, it's morbid, but, I also think it's really great to think about. I think we think about it, unfortunately, always too late generally, where only on our deathbed or only later in life where we truly realize the stuff that we missed out on or the things that we wish we would have given more opportunity for. And it's personally why I love watching, as sad as it is to watch something that's, revolves around death, or to read something like this that revolves around death. it's just such a great reminder to not pick what Ryder picked, to be able to just say, hey, I would hope that I would spend those last remaining years with, my partner and kid, or, I'm watching something else where there's a character dying, and, they did the same thing, they're dying of cancer. It's like, I don't want to have to spend my last years, or months, being tied up to tubes and poked and prodded. It's and again, I'm not in that. That's a totally different thing. So that's easy for me to say, not being in that position. But I think that's just that also the animalistic instinct in all of us to fight, to keep living. And, that's what Ryder did here. But then unfortunately, like you said, seeing the future now that she won't be privy to, and, realizing that she wished she would have been able to. So.
Yeah, and even when she asks to see them one more time, and he grants her that and takes her back to the field where she sees Darius and Joey there in the field, and she's like, "Can I go say goodbye?" And Death asks her, and I don't have the line in front of me, but pretty much, is that for you or for them? Would that help or hurt?
Do you think that would help or hurt them?
Yes.
And she goes, I don't know. And he goes, yes, you do know.
Yeah. And she said, and even after that, she still takes the step forward. Even though she knows it's going to hurt them, she still takes a step forward because she wants that. She wants that goodbye. And she says it was worth a shot, which leads to we'll get to that next page in a second. But I was thinking about this. You were talking about knowing someone that went through a disease and of cancer, and that same thing with my grandma as she was passing away from cancer. Gosh, it's been 11 years ago now. There was a point in time where she was too sick to have chemo or anything like that, but she was hanging on past when the doctor said she would hang on for. And it was making me wonder, is there a point in time when you just accept it's going to happen and you tell her it's okay, we'll be okay, we're going to be okay without you here, because you can see how much suffering the person's going through. And then on another day, you're liable to think, just hang on a little longer, even though I felt at times, whether it be myself or someone in the family was being selfish. We just don't want to let go of someone we love. And it's heartbreaking to see them go through, to suffer, but it's also heartbreaking to think about waking up the next day and never seeing that person again in that same thing. But at least the one good thing about the way this ended was Death. I believe he knew she was going to miss every shot. He let her see that not just her daughter was going to find love, but that they were going to have grandkids, and then they were going to joke about the time that she won the farm through a bet. Like it wasn't like, oh, your grandma was an outlaw that ended up going to try to kill Death and left us. It was yep, she won the whole farm by playing poker. It was a happy moment that she was seeing.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's there's never really truly in our minds like a definitive time where she dies. Maybe on this last slide and panel we'll see, but again, you can kind of take multiple moments as her final moment. It's like you said, it's Death gives her the option to go see her family. She steps forward, and it turns out that he was really just using her own gun to then take her out. And we see some blood and stuff, but like again, I kind of think it's more of it's a visual for us, but like again, I kind of took it as like she's already been in Death's embrace, like she's already been dead. This is just the final visual nail in the coffin. But same with their family. The instant she left was when they knew that she, especially Darius knew that she was gone. He himself said it's a one-way trip. You're not coming back. And
the tears, the way he was crying too. He was already saying goodbye to her. You're right.
Yeah, he was already grieving, and it might have taken their daughter a little bit more. She might not have, understood what was happening. But like you said, it was nice. It was nice that again, it's such a difficult thing because she was such a horrible person, but she still did find her own peace in a way and find her own partner and kid, and so it was nice to be able to see them remember her in a better light. And like you said, we kind of tend to do that with most people anyway, where we remember the best in them rather than the worst in them, at least when it comes to people we love. It's love is a difficult thing. It's not a emotion, it's a choice you make daily. So Darius and his daughter continue to make that choice when she left and decided, that they'd remember her in a better light. So
yeah, and she sees it a cycle of violence, whatever her back upbringing was, whatever led her to becoming an outlaw, that had officially broken. That was no longer, she had a respectable family. They were living well, and they looked happy. Darius lived to be an old age. You could tell because
have grandkids
behavior involved. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say too, again, another contender for what could be a poster. Granted, it would be a big spoiler of a poster, but if you don't know, then you wouldn't know. But this one again would just be amazing on the wall as a big poster. So
I agree, and I don't know. Whenever I was flipping through or reading the story last night, and the panel right before this bookender was her going, "Well, it was worth a shot," and then you turn the page and bam, and I thought, it's funny because that's kind of what it's not funny, but that's way death is. We live the life, we live this whole process to get to the point, and then death is so sudden and so final that I don't know what I was expecting. I was expecting like more to happen, but when I saw the word bang and then I looked down in the corner and saw the end, I thought, oh, that's deep. That's good. that's a perfect ending to it because that's exactly the way that's what it should be. We were with Journey or Ryder on her journey, and now her journey's done, so we're done.
Yeah, I mean, it's, we could have ended it any number of ways. It could have just gone to like a black, screen and the end, or something like that.
Style.
Yeah, but no, the way they did this is awesome. And honestly, that's so funny because I just realized I love the fact that they used the end as the dot as the period.
I didn't even notice that. And
it's the exclamation mark, and that's the end. I mean, again, it's Nate's work on this book was so good, and I love, again, he's got YouTube videos where he'll break down, or even his Instagram I follow, where he breaks down typography and font, and again, I mean, it's an art form all in and of itself, and I think a lot of times, unfortunately, it gets overlooked because it's so easy to read through the pages quickly, and you read through the words, not realizing that stuff is just as well thought out as the pencils and the inks and colors and stuff. This stuff has to flow and fit together. If it doesn't, then you'll notice it, not necessarily notice what's wrong, but you'll know that it doesn't feel right. Whereas this just feels great. And like I said, just that me noticing now the exclamation mark with the end is such a great piece. So.
And I totally missed that. I'm glad you pointed that out. That's pretty funny. I think you may have touched on a few minutes ago where we were talking about where's Ryder's body, which I didn't really think about until we started discussing this pre-show. But at which point did Ryder die? Does it matter? But to me, I'm curious now. Did she die out in the desert somewhere? Did she die in the city of Cyprus, or is she going to be laying in a field, which would be a horrific thing for her family to find? And the only thing I could think of as I was leading up to this question was, if this is a symbolic killing of her, and her family finds her in a field that died from natural cause or the cause of the disease that she had, maybe the only saving grace. But I think you're right. It makes more sense that when she left the farm, that tombstone probably went up. And bad on me for not putting an image up of the tombstone, but the tombstone probably didn't go up too long after that because they knew she wasn't coming back right from the beginning.
Yeah.
And Tyler also pointed out a great point of the date on the tombstone. It's on there twice, where it says M. Ryder. It has 1856 through 19, and it's covered up with grass, so it's kind of ambiguous of what year that is or what date it is. So whether this story does feel timeless, there is a range of where it takes place in, but I'm not sure her age or when they declared her dead or what. But yeah, I'd even pay attention to the date on. I was so into the story. That was a good catch by Tyler on that one.
Yeah, like I said, it just came up twice, and it was just interesting to me, the choice to show all but two of the numbers, those last two numbers, to really, like you said, define the year, how old she was. And so, and it makes sense. Again, it's one of those artistic decisions where, the end of Inception, is it real? Is it not real? Again, it's left to you as the reader. It doesn't necessarily need to be answered either. When you start answering every question about the world, then we get stuff like midichlorians and Star Wars and the magic kind of, you lose that a little bit of that when it becomes a little bit more defined and detailed. So I appreciate it. Am I still questioning it? Like you said, what those years are. If we ever got the chance to ask Skottie, I for sure would. But I'm sure he'd be like, it doesn't really matter. Or, it's if I did have it, I'm not going to say what it is. So.
Man, Chlorians made an appearance on our show tonight. I would have not guessed that. So Anakin's were off the scale, in case you were wondering. So
they were.
All right. Well, that's our review. Overall, this was, and I think this after reading this and then having, approximately almost 24 hours to kind of absorb the ending of it, this is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Skottie creation ever. A lot of the other books that we've talked about that Skottie has created are fun and they're very entertaining, but this one hits on so many different levels that I will be reading this one. Me and Tyler both bought the whole digital book today online just so we could do more rereads today. But I'll probably be reading this next week on vacation as well. It's this one's going to stick with us for a while, I think.
Yeah, it's I love I Hate Fairyland, and it's such a fun series to read. But ever since they did Middle West, Middle West just really hit me. It was just, a kind of emotional punch to the gut, but in a great way. And, I love being able to get that again with Ain't No Grave here. And like you said, being able to read it again and being able to just look at the art. And I definitely look forward to adding the soft cover. I can't wait to see what plate we get with that one, whatever Skottie includes. So definitely, like I said, another great one in the series from this team. So
agree 100%. So did you get any Skottie items this week other than a bunch of digital copies of Ain't No Grave?
I did, yeah. As usual, I didn't get to the shop today, so I'll go this weekend. But I did get a Skottie package. And actually, I haven't shown you this yet, so I'll say this for last. But I got my my Frankenstein and my TMNT comics in the mail, so I was really excited to get the 2 signed versions of these. I had gotten the foil version of TMNT, so this time I went for the regular because they got the restock, and you can't really tell. It's hard to tell from the camera, unfortunately, but I was really hoping for Leonardo once I found out they were doing the 4 color signatures for the TMNT comics. And sure enough, I pulled a blue. I pulled a Leonardo, whether or not because they saw my comment that I was hoping I'd pull Leonardo, or I just got lucky and that's what I ended up with. Whichever one, I'm grateful for. But what you'll find interesting is the slip that I received, because I've now added a new slip that I've not personally seen to the collection. And it is signed NB. And I've not seen that one. I don't know who NB is. I've not seen an NB. I'd be curious, who that was, who that is. So
Nobody's the first thing that popped in my head. And I thought, surely.
That's kind of what popped into my head as well. Nobody's, did it. It's no longer blank. It's just nobody. So.
Oh wow! So it packed itself. No, I'll have to ask him. NB.
I haven't had a chance to make an official post, so I'll make my official post on Instagram and tag him and see if maybe Megan can shine some light on it. So
it's a mystery. That's breaking news. I feel like this should have led this. We should have scrapped the review and just went into this.
Go with NB and get our detective caps on. So
man, have you showed Seth yet?
I didn't show yet. Seth was in the group, so I told him, I said, hey, here's something you'll be surprised about to see. So
interesting. So he's not 100% complete anymore. Man, you're stepping your game up.
I am. Yeah, I'm breaking new ground. So how about yourself? Anything new on your end?
I got a bunch of my. I didn't order whenever it first came out, so I just got a regular full and a regular. Man, I don't know where my camera's at. Or just the regular books. I didn't get any signatures because I'm wanting to get it CGC'd. And then my weekly or my monthly pull list came from CMC that I opened right before the show, and so it's pretty much it's the covers that everybody else has been getting throughout the weeks. But I do it's just a monthly pull list, so I get all of mine stockpiled together.
I love that, the boy band. Yeah, that Black Panther is still the best.
And then the
with that Marvel,
So Clan McDonald Comics, give them credit. They're the ones I do my pull list with, and they always have such exceptional packaging. So those all came in today.
You planning on remarks for the TMNT, or just signed for the CGC variants, or?
Oh, the foil. I think the next time he has one, I'm just going to send it in for CGC because the foil material, I'm not sure how well it'll remark with.
Fair, yeah.
So I think just the signature that he did, and I waited too long, and they sold out. Like, because you could buy them with the CGC 9.8 at the shop. So that was on me. I waited too long, so I'm gonna have to. I bought 2 copies of those, so I could try to get one.
There's so much that comes out. Like I've got to pick and choose. If it could, I'd get CGC versions of every single one. I just have them put me on a list and just say, hey, whatever you're dropping, give me a CGC. So
that subscription, When the Skottie Young credit card comes out, we're all in trouble. So
exactly.
So this week, the new releases this week, obviously the book that we just reviewed. There's some more coming out next week, but this was the 2 issues that were out, the regular and the 1 in 25. And we're already an hour and a half in, so I'm trying to buzz through these a little bit. But this is the Wolverine 2 that comes out October 16th. And I think the final order cutoff date may be this week on this one. And just another stellar cover. I'm not sure how many I ordered of these. I think I just got one. But after seeing the cover, I was like, man, I should have got more.
Should have grabbed another,
Yeah, this is definitely a graded contender. And then the big news next Wednesday, I guess it is. I don't know if there's a time been released, but the warehouse sale. So, and also the introduction of the Skottie bag. So
yes, the Skottie tote. Yes, I definitely want one of those. So
we'll have to model those off at all the cons next year. So that's
that's what I was telling you, my friends. I was like, I definitely need one of those to carry all the Skottie stuff that I buy, or if I take it to a convention to hold all the stuff that I'll get. So
give him to sign it and frame it too. So
exactly.
It looks like there's a lot of excitement around this warehouse sale. So looking forward to see what they have next week.
Yeah, same.
And new to the shop. Got the banner here for it. I'll throw it up just in case anybody watches later. But as I said, I checked before the show. The unsigned copy was showing sold out. They still have versions of the signed copy and options for the CGC Signature Series 9.8. And this is available in SkottieYoung.com. And I think this is under exclusive variant covers.
Yep. So, yeah, I grabbed my signed copies. So
sweet.
Looking forward to adding that to the collection.
Yeah, it'll be nice to have them all together. And I forgot to mention this to you. I was going to tell you this pre-show, but last night I've got a wall or kind of a mid wall there that I put my CGC books up on, and I was putting all the Ain't No Grave books up together, and I've got a Spider-Man statue, and his hand's out like this, and his thumb got hooked on my button-up shirt, and I ripped his hand off and broke 2 fingers off my statue.
Oh, no.
So. Yeah, and I only was able to find one of the fingers, so Ain't No Grave. Ryder gets another casualty. So,
I like it.
But I was upset about that, but
yeah, that's always a bummer. Especially this, I've had that happen. I've had a Captain America one that I own broke, and I had to piece them and glue them back together. So it's always a bummer. I love these statues, but I almost kind of wish they were just plastic. So again, I wouldn't have to worry about them breaking. So.
Yeah, PVC would be. And as I was in the floor looking for a finger, looking for the thumb, I saw that one of the cats had knocked one of my Rogue heads, the X-Men Rogue. I've got a statue of her, and her alternate head had been knocked over and it broke the hair off of it. So it just kept getting worse. I thought I don't even want to look anymore because there's no
don't even show you exactly.
So, but oh well, it's only material stuff. I keep telling myself. So
that's
real
fair.
quick, I'm gonna put this on every show until we get closer to Heroes, but still keeping this spinning for a potential fan meetup at Heroes 2025. And last but not least, if you would like to be on this show and hang out with 2 cool guys, Tyler and myself, please message either Tyler or me, and we will make it happen. We will get you on here. Whether you want to be on here for the full show, you may think, I don't want to talk for 90 minutes. If you want to talk for 9 minutes, we'll keep you on here. So, but as always,
exactly. Just a quick little cameo.
That's right. The more people, and whenever we first started this, I was thinking, man, we'll have people wanting to be on the show every week. And so far, Dre's the only one that came up. So, I say two cool guys. We're two guys that like to talk about Skottie Young stuff and occasionally drop some Disney banter in there. But we'll keep doing this as long as we keep getting entertained.
We're pretty cool. It's Skottie called us on that first one and said we're great guys. So we've got Sky's approval at least. So
it's certified. You heard the man. It's certified.
Exactly.
But anyway, we will not have a show next week. I'm on vacation next week, so unless Tyler wants to go solo, he's more than welcome to, or we can pick up on the 25th, which is probably more than likely what's going to happen. So
I could certainly run my mouth for an hour, but I don't know. I wouldn't have anybody to bounce off of. So
well, we'll take a break, regroup, refresh. We've made it 5 episodes, so this is a lot farther than my wife thought we would make it. So
there you go.
We're playing with house money now, much like Ryder. So thank y'all for tuning in. The ones that are watching it later, check out the Skottie Young I changed the name, Skottie Young Appreciation Group on Facebook. We hit 7,200 members this past week, so we're on our march to 10K. Awesome. So please join in, whether you like to just view the post or like to actually participate. Everybody's welcome. So Tyler, you want to sign us off for the night?
Yes. Everyone stay messy. Again, keep collecting Skottie, and yep, that's all I've got.
All right, y'all have a good one.
Catch y'all later.